Hey guys, welcome back to another impressions video. Today I want to talk about this game right here, Shadows of the Dam, a game that I just recently beat for the PlayStation 3, also available for the 360. This is essentially a third-person action shooter developed by Grasshopper Manufacture and published by EA, which I know it's a little bit of an odd combination, but I'm really glad this game came out because I absolutely loved this game. And it's already one of my favorite Suda 51 games, and that's the main appeal of this game for me. That was the main reason for me to try this game. This game was directed by both Suda 51, which is the creative mind of games like Lollipop Chainsaw, No More Heroes, Killer 7, Killer is Dead, and also directed by Shinji Mikami, which is the creator of the Resident Evil series. And I'm a huge fan of the Resident Evil series, you know, it's probably my second favorite series in gaming, just behind The Legend of Zelda. So if you combine those two talents, those two creative minds, this is the end product right here, and I'm really happy. Also, the person responsible for the music in this game is the composer of the Silent Hill series soundtrack, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he's also a very talented person, and that shows because the soundtrack in this game is really good. Now, essentially, Shadows of the Dam, the story is very simple. You play as Garcia Hotspur, which is this Mexican demon hunter and slayer, and the game starts when you kill this very important, I guess, demon, and the king of the demons, I forgot his name, I think it's Fleming. He decides to take revenge because you keep killing his his soldiers, if you will. So he decides to take revenge on you, and he goes and kidnaps your girlfriend and takes her to the city of the damned, the underworld, which is this parallel universe where all the demons live. And of course you follow him to to the city of the damned in order to get your girlfriend Paula back. So a very silly story, but it works because the humor and the characters in this game are very well done, and that's the part where Suda 51 comes in. You can tell because of the personality, the humor, the nonsensical dialogue in the game that the main ingredients for that portion of the game were brought by Suda 51. You have Garcia Hotspur, which is, he's Mexican. He has this very thick Hispanic accent, and his companion is Johnson, this guy right here. And essentially, he morphs into your weapons. So throughout the game, you can use a handgun, machine guns, shotguns, and Johnson, he like morphs into the different weapons that you can use. And whenever you're not using him, he becomes a light torch. So you hold him in your hand to light up dark areas. And it's funny because the dialogue between them happens during the game. And like I said, you have Garcia with a thick Hispanic accent, and Johnson has a British accent. So it's an odd combination that worked remarkably well. And the dialogue is very funny, very fresh. It almost reminds me of the Jak and Daxter for the PlayStation 2, in which Daxter was really funny. But the cool thing about this game is that the main protagonist, Garcia Hotspur, he also talks, unlike Jak in that game. So they talk to each other throughout the entire game, and it keeps you entertained. And there are other characters that you meet along the game. One of them is the vendor, which is something that was taken out of Resident Evil 4. If you ask me, the vendor, his name is Christopher, and he has like this southern accent, and he also has some funny lines along the game. But his main purpose is to sell you ammo or health, and which you can purchase by using white gems, which is the currency in this game. And also you can find red gems in this game, which are your upgrades for your weapons. So you can upgrade your weapons for damage, reloading speed, and whatnot. So red gems are very important, but very scarce in the game. So whenever you find one, you have upgrades available, and it adds to the gameplay, obviously. And now, as far as the gameplay, that's when you definitely see the influence by Shinji Mikami, because this game feels, it's very similar to Resident Evil 4. You have a third person, behind the shoulder type of camera view, and the gunplay is very, very similar to Resident Evil 4, which is a good thing because I love that game. And you can definitely tell that Shinji Mikami was heavily involved in developing the gunplay in this game. It's very satisfying because the game offers a wider range of different features. For example, your weapons, as you progress through the levels, you gain secondary features in your weapons. So, for example, your pistol gains a secondary feature that can shoot these sticky bombs or sticky grenades that you can shoot into the enemies. And they walk around with the grenade or whatever, and then you shoot the grenade and they blow up. But you can also use those for puzzle solving. The game does a very good job of engaging the different types of ammo and weapons and features that you unlock throughout the game. Also, the game allows you to shoot light, which is critical in a lot of parts in the game. You can use light to stun enemies, and when they're stunned, you can approach them and do a melee attack, and which is very useful if you're running low on ammo. You can just stun the enemies by shooting light, and then you do your melee attack or kill. And also during the game, there's the element of darkness. Every now and then, the enemies will engulf the scenery with darkness, and in order to get rid of the darkness, because if you're shrouded by darkness, you get your health goes down. So you have to quickly act and shoot goat heads, which I know it sounds crazy. It's really funny, but if you shoot a goat head with your light feature in your weapon, then the light comes back and you're not losing health anymore. So a lot of interesting gameplay mechanics in the gunplay that makes the game, gives the game a lot of variety. And speaking of variety, the enemies in this game are very, very interesting to fight, and they're very varied because pretty much at each new level you encounter new enemy types, and as you progress through the game, obviously it gets more difficult and the enemies become more complicated. The tactics that you have to use to beat them are vary greatly from one type of enemy to the other. So it adds to that tension element because later in the game they throw a bunch of enemies at you, and you have to use different methods by using your different weapon features, by using that light mechanic. You have to juggle through the situations and to deal with the enemies. So very, very fun gameplay and gunplay, if you ask me. Also, I do have to say that the final boss fight in this game, it's one of the longest fights ever. I don't think it's hard because I beat him on my first try, but it took me around 30 to 45 minutes to beat that bastard. And I'm not going to spoil anything, obviously, but let me just say that take a lot of healing items because it's a very, very long fight. It was getting a little bit frustrating towards the end because I just wanted to beat the game. But a very long fight, end boss fight, but very enjoyable game, very enjoyable, silly story. And as far as the scenery and the atmosphere, again, this game takes another page out of Shinji Mikami. The game feels a lot like Resident Evil 4, but it's set in this, dark and grotesque city, the demon city, which is funny because it looks like a regular city. The buildings are normal, the rooms are normal, but demons inhabit this place. So a very dark themed looking environments that really blend well with the game. And also speaking, as you move along the game, some of the environments change. There's a lot of variety in the scenery, and later on in the game, some of the environments are more gory and a little bit visceral, if you will. But that's the point of the game, you're in the city of the demons, and you get to see all these really dark and grotesque things. And Also, another thing that I have to say is that the game does a really good job. Speaking of variety, not only in the enemies, not only in the sceneries, but in the gameplay as well, because the game takes breaks here in between. Sometimes the game throws puzzles at you, which they feel very much like the puzzles that you find in Resident Evil games. Also, the game later on has these shoot 'em up portions where it's sort of like a cartoon looking shoot 'em up portions that they do a very, very nice job of breaking the pacing of the game in a good way, because otherwise the game will be too much action filled, and those portions in the game, I think, in my opinion, they do a very good job of just breaking the pace in a very positive way. And it's very hard for me to find negative things about this game. I do have to say that for being a Grasshopper Manufacture game, you're not going to find the typical technical glitches or technical issues like in other games like No More Heroes or Killer is Dead. No screen tearing, no frame rate drops, no weird camera angle controls. It almost feels like this is not a Grasshopper Manufacture game. And I think the reason behind that is because EA published the game, so I can only guess that this game had a higher than normal production budget for a Grasshopper Manufacture game, so they had the luxury to polish the game before they released it. And another uncharacteristic thing, if you will, is that this game doesn't use the typical cel shading type of graphics that Suda51 likes for his games. This game has 3D models, 3D polygonal models, so a nice change of pace from that, characteristic, cel shading graphical presentation that we're accustomed to see in Suda51 games. So the game feels like a high production Grasshopper Manufacture game, which is a little bit of an oddity here, but a very welcome one. And the one thing that really made me sad when I was reading about information about this game is that I read that this game only sold 24,000 copies in its first month of release, and that's combined for the PlayStation 3 and 360. So this game was a commercial failure, which means that we'll never get to see a sequel for this game, which is a true shame, because I really, really loved this game. And props to EA. I do have to say that I think it's very easy to hate on big name publishers like EA and Capcom, because they do a lot of bad things, but props to EA for publishing this game, for taking the risk of publishing a Grasshopper Manufacture game, because as we all know, that company, pretty much every game that they put out is a commercial failure, and I'm really wondering how the hell they're still afloat and alive, because all their games, they usually tend to do very, very poor in sales. So props to EA for opening up the wallet and funding this game. But it's a true shame. This game was a failure sales-wise, and it's really impossible that we're gonna see a sequel, which is a shame, because again, this game does a beautiful job of taking the best ingredients from the craziness of Suda51. That Japanese quirkiness, nonsensical humor of the characters and the storyline, and combining that with the genius of Shinji Mikami, that experience in making survival horror games, that experience in creating a very unique atmosphere in games, and those elements, they blend beautifully to present this game, Shadows of the Dam. Very unique game, very, very unique. I think if you guys have a PlayStation 3 or a 360, and if you're remotely interested in this game, get out there now and buy it, because I get the feeling that this is going to become one of those uncommon games in the near future. It's going to be a little bit tough to find, because the game sold very poorly. There are not many copies out there. So if you guys enjoy this, if you guys enjoy Resident Evil or Suda51 games, give this one a shot. It's a game that tries to be serious in terms of the atmosphere and the presentation, but it's not serious in the end because of the characters. I absolutely love Garcia Hotspur. I absolutely love his companion Johnson. I just loved the interaction between them, and then you have the gameplay, the gunplay elements that made the Resident Evil franchise really popular. And you know, those ingredients, they do a beautiful job of blending in together. And then you have the soundtrack, which again was courtesy of the Silent Hill music creator or whatever. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Shadows of the Dam, highly recommend it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all later.